For the delay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand, and we're going to have a silent reflection and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Here.
Mr. Diver?
Here.
Mrs. King?
Here.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
Mr. Schuler? Mr. Vorback?
Here.
Mayor Mechanico?
Jay, would you please read the statement of compliance?
Yes. Pursuant to the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Borough Clerk, posted on the website, as well as being provided to the published as a legal notice in the Coast Star newspaper.
I would like a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Vorback?
Yes.
And now I would like the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on February the 27th, 2012.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Vorback?
Abstain.
Okay, now, Jay, would you please read ordinance number 03-2012?
This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Section 3-1 entitled Noise of Chapter 3, Regulations Enforced by the Police Department of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey.
Can I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
Council President King, before the council opens the public hearing on this, I just want to reiterate what I had set forth in my memo to you that was in the packages over the weekend, and that is that I am requesting that you consider a minor modification to this ordinance following the public hearing that would not delay the adoption of the ordinance. The modification would make the language of the proposed revision consistent with the language as it reads in other sections of the ordinance. Specifically, in the current ordinance, the language relating to time restrictions on mowing doesn't use the word mowing. It actually references the use of power lawn or garden equipment. And rather than utilize the term mowing, for consistency purposes, I'm recommending that we utilize the same language, the use of power lawn or garden equipment. It doesn't change the hours. It would still be a prohibition before 7 o'clock a.m. or after 8 o'clock p.m. on any day of the week, but that way the language is consistent with the language that already exists elsewhere in the code. So I just wanted to get that out there so you knew that I was going to suggest that you amend the ordinance. I consider that to be a non-substantial amendment that doesn't require you to reintroduce the ordinance. You could still adopt it this evening following the public hearing, but I also wanted the public to be aware that I'm making that recommendation to you so that anyone can speak out about this as well as the proposed minor amendment.
Thank you, Fred.
You're welcome.
Okay, can I have a motion to open up the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
If anybody would like to come forward and address the council.
Arthur E. Martone, 719 Park Avenue, Spring Lake Heights. First, I'd like to bring up a point of order here. Are any members of the council members of the Spring Lake Golf Course?
Yes.
The Spring Lake Golf Course is organized under a 501 code, which means that it's a part owner and so forth. And I'd like to ask Councilman Diver to excuse himself from the deliberations and voting.
Absolutely.
From the deliberations? Thank you. One, the golf course 2 years ago, or over 2 years ago, this council changed the golf course from being a golf course to a residential area. Why they did it, I don't know. Now we're here and we're modifying it. Now, why do we want to modify it? Because because they're making noise and they're using power mowers over there and power equipment. Now, years ago, you said that golf course has been here 100 years. Maybe, well, it has. But they used to sweep the water off the greens with reeds and long poles and so forth, which were very quiet. Now they use power blowers. In fact, they were there at 7:45 this morning, blowing off the greens. Now, that's a quality of life issue to me because I'm right across the street. They could go to another part of the golf course where maybe in the center where I can't hear it. It wouldn't bother me at all. But when they do it right less than 200 feet from where I'm sleeping, it bothers me. And I think that the council should not approve this ordinance the way it is, as I say, because it's a quality of life issue. Now, you say it's been there for so long. I've been there for 59 years. I haven't seen anything on any member that was there before 1973. That's only 39 years. So they've been there a long time, but none of them are there. None of them there now were there 100 years ago. Times have changed. We've built up a lot, and it bothers a lot more people now than it used to. Thank you.
Mr. Martone, if I could just indicate for the record that when this ordinance was introduced, Councilman Diver did recuse himself. He did not participate in any of the discussion and abstained on the vote, which he is intending to do this evening as well.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, my name is Robert Blasey. I represent the Spring Lake Golf Club. And present tonight are Josh Rieger, who is the new superintendent at the golf club, Brian Keating, who is a member of the Board of Trustees, and I also note in the audience is Brian O'Givney, who's the manager of Fairway Muse, and Jim Quigley, who is on the Board of Trustees of Fairway Muse and serves as their golf chairman. And I don't mean to speak for them, they can say whatever they want, but I want the council to be aware that they're present. What is unusual in this case, and I'm asking this council to seriously consider the adoption of this ordinance, what is unusual here is as to how this has come about. This ordinance that you are hopefully about to amend this evening is on the books since 1966. And the golf club is not asking this council to be allowed to do something different than what they've been doing for many, many years. Simply put, a golf club, be it Fairway Muse, be it Spring Lake Golf Club, cannot function as a golf club if they cannot start their mechanical equipment before 8 o'clock in the morning. And what's particularly interesting, when you look at this ordinance, and nobody started to look at this ordinance till very recently because the issue just never came up. On Sundays, it's 10 o'clock. I don't think, at least myself, I mean, I'm in my capacity as attorney for the golf club for 10 years. And I will tell you, the first time I've had any dealings with this issue was approximately a year ago. And I don't think that I ever realized, and I'm still not totally convinced, that this ordinance was ever intended to apply to a golf course. A golf course, by its very nature, must maintain the course for its members, for the public. It has numerous charity events. If, just very simply put, and I don't mean to keep repeating myself, if this board were to rule that this club and Fairway Muse cannot start to maintain their course till 8 o'clock in the morning, they would both suffer very substantial financial harm. So again, you're not being asked to change something. You're just being asked to allow the golf course and Fairway Muse to do what they've been doing for many, many years. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
And as I say, Mr. Rieger, superintendent, is here if anybody wants to ask him any questions.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Joe Martone. I'm here representing my mother, who's too ill to be here tonight. I'm just here to echo what my father said concerning this. They've been here a lot longer than any of the members at the golf course have been there. The golf course came to this council a couple of years ago and requested that the zoning be changed to residential. The council approved it. They did that for one reason, so it would enhance the value of the property, and they could develop it any time. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You're on a very slippery slope here. If you make a special consideration for the golf course, you're gonna have to make special considerations for everybody that wanna do different things in their zoning that they're not supposed to do. So you're on a very slippery slope here. You're setting precedent right here. It's very dangerous what you're trying to do here. I mean, my mother and father aren't against the golf course being successful. They've been there for years. My father's had golf balls come through his window. He don't complain. But when they're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, blowing the greens off, right there, my father even signed a complaint against them and went to court on it, and they negotiated it, the settlement. And he said, listen, I don't want you to cost you any money. Who was the attorney? Pardon? Who was the attorney that you met with? Mr. Blasey. Mr. Blasey. He used to sit on his council right here. Met Mr. Blasey and said, listen, I don't want to cost you any money. I just don't want noise early in the morning waking me and my sick wife up. That's all. Very simple. They changed the zoning. If they don't want to live by the rules of the zoning, they shouldn't have requested it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It doesn't work that way. Okay? It just really doesn't. On a very slippery slope here. And I would hope that you would, more than recluse yourself, you should, I think, probably not even be in the meeting room. Anybody that reclused themselves I ever saw at a meeting left the room. Thank you.
Just one statement, and Mr. Fetto may have been the borough attorney at the time. I meant to say it the last time I was up here. I have no idea what these gentlemen are talking about the golf club coming to this governing body and asking for a change of zoning. I have no idea what he's talking about. Fred, am I wrong?
I think what the gentleman is referring to is going back to when the borough was dealing with affordable housing responsibilities, that there may have been an overlay zoning district that was approved by the council. If in fact the golf course should ever cease to exist, that there would be a zoning in place for that property.
But that's not 2 years ago, Fred. I mean, that's many, many years ago, am I correct?
I don't recall exactly how many years ago it was. It was several years back, but
It certainly wasn't my time in borough attorney, which is 10 years. So again, I'm not sure what he's referring to. I have no idea what he's referring to.
and I do believe it was initiated at the borough's end and not from the golf course's request, that it was something that the borough was dealing with in terms of how to address its affordable housing obligation.
Thank you.
Maybe the golf course would like to be zoned as a golf course again and not residential. Then they can do what they want.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jim Quigley, 76 Walnut Drive, and I'm the chairman of the golf committee over in Fairway Mews. We're not asking for 6 o'clock. We're asking for 7. And it gets down to a point, even the charity outing that we have for the Fairway Mews, for the Spring Lake Heights First Aid Squad, we wouldn't be able to have it in the morning. So we're going to do away with all these things for an hour? That's all I have to say, but I thought I had to say it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to make a comment? Okay, can I have a motion to close the open public
I'll make that
comments?
motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor can proceed to the discussion aspect among the council on the
Okay.
ordinance.
Does anybody have anything they want to say in reference to this ordinance?
I would just say that I live fairly close to the Spring Lake Country Club, and I've not had any issue with hearing the sounds coming from the country club. So I'd just like to add at that point. By the same token, I don't really for a second believe that this is they want the time changed for some purpose to make the town better. You know, I mean, that's how you run a golf course. You got to get the mowers out there and get going. I understand that. But I haven't heard the noise, and so I'm in favor of the ordinance.
I just understand the golf course and the financial, you need to maintain that course before the golfers get on. I mean, I'm also handle construction. Donnelly Construction was one of my clients, and who did the addition to the golf course. And you know, it is a hardship. It's going to be an undue hardship, I feel, with regards to making this later. And I'm your neighbor, Mr. Martone, and I don't have this, you know, I'm hearing impaired, so I take my hearing aids out at night. I can't hear any mowers. So as far as the sounds or whatnot, that's not an issue that I really personally have, but my husband and my neighbors, you know, nobody's ever, I mean, you're the first complaint that I've ever heard about it. I do realize that there are, I guess, some individuals from Fairway Muse that was brought up last meeting that I've also, but I think that if there's a way that they can start, you know, I talked to Tom Caverly, who's maybe that there's some way that they can start in another area to start mowing, and that would, you know, might alleviate the noise that you're hearing in the morning.
Tom, do you have anything? I would just like to say that I've lived in this town for a very, very long time, and as far as the golf courses, they've always been a mainstay here. They've always been something that the town has thoroughly enjoyed having. At one time, we did have 2 completely full golf courses, because now the one that is Fairway Muse does have structures, livable structures on it, but at one time it did not. And I have not heard any complaints prior to this myself. We have to consider too that there are some, as I said at the last meeting, some of our very residents who work on these golf courses, especially the Spring Lake Golf and Country Club, who live here in town. And you know, they have a livelihood, they make a living from these golf courses, and if we do not allow, you know, them to continue to operate the way that they should operate, and they do lose some of the people that come there to run, you know, their different events and what have you, then we are going to feel the effects of it. And I just don't think that we should change anything in any way, shape, or form. I'd like to call for an amendment to this.
Yes, Council President, the new language would read as follows. Nothing contained herein shall prohibit the use of power lawn or garden equipment on a golf course by the owner, its employees, or a contractor employed by the owner between the hours of 7 o'clock a.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. on any day of the week. So we would need a motion to amend the ordinance so that the language would read in that respect.
Second.
Okay. Jay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Diver?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes,
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
thank you.
Now, the ordinance has been amended, and it would now be appropriate for a motion to adopt the ordinance as it has been amended.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Jay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Diver?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move to our next voice of the public. And this is on the agenda items that are listed under discussion, or anything else that you may want to bring up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the different discussion items that are highlighted here, and then I'm going to turn this over to our Borough Administrator, Jay. First item is the Fletcher property demolition. The second is the request to waive community center fee, Special Young Adult Bowling League. The third is the Spring Lake First Aid and Emergency Squad LoSAP. The fourth is Fairway Muse sewer repair. The fifth is the water bill adjustment for the Greco estate. The sixth is the certificate of occupancy fee refund, Spring Lake Heights Associates LLC. The seventh is the Allaire Road Field and Community Center use request for the Manasquan Youth Football and Cheer. The eighth is the coin toss ordinance. And the last item, number 9, is the Amascato property rezoning request. And, Jay, can I ask you to go forward, please?
Yes, in addition to those discussion items listed under new business are ordinance introductions, ordinance number 04-2012, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 10, Building and Housing of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey. And also under new business for resolutions, there are 2. The first is a resolution approving George Breslin as an active junior firefighter for the Spring Lake Heights Fire Department. And the second is a resolution, the addition are the financial resolutions approving the items, payment of claims on the bill list. And then the additional item listed as number 85, authorizing tax office refunds or cancellations.
Okay.
Council President, you're going to open to the public now?
Yes, I'm going to open it to the public. Anyone wish to come forward?
No one's coming forward. I'll make a motion to close the first voice
I'll
of the public.
second it.
Jay, can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Diver?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
And Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Okay. Under new business, Jay, you want to read this ordinance?
Actually, I don't know if the council wanted to actually discuss those discussion items first, starting with the Fletcher property.
Oh, okay. Does anybody here have any comments on the dais?
Well, I've seen the report that Joe May put together after I asked him to go take a look at the house. I've been convinced all along, and I'm more convinced now, the house has to come down before somebody gets hurt. So I think whatever we need to do to move that forward, we need to do it. It's been sitting there empty for 2 years, and there's no point keeping it up.
I agree as well.
I think we're all in concert with that.
Normally, we would have requested authorization to proceed to obtain quotes or bids. In this case, anticipating that the cost may be a factor, we actually solicited quotations, and it's notable that both have come in below the bid threshold. So we will proceed with the award of that contract and proceed with the demolition.
Good.
Anybody wish to talk on any other of these issues?
Are we voting on any of them? We're voting on all of them?
Perhaps Mr. Delaney can go through them one by one and give a little bit more explanation.
Yeah, why don't you do that,
Yeah, and
Jay?
again, not knowing exactly the protocol that's been practiced in the past, I have put together these items for discussion. The next is the request to waive the community center fee, and from the correspondence which has been distributed, apparently this is an annual event. I might suggest that in the future, we may want to consider an amendment to the ordinance that provides for an automatic waiving of the fees for nonprofit organizations, or if the governing body wishes to view these on a case-by-case basis, that would be leave things as they are and have these requests come one at a time.
My only concern here is I don't mind waiving the fee, but I don't think we should waive the deposit. In case we incur damages, I would not like to waive the deposit.
And as we discussed at the budget meeting last week, remember I brought up the fact that, we really need to put in place some kind of a plan where we can go and observe the building after it's been rented. And I don't know how we're going to go about that, but this does fall under buildings and grounds. So I would think that maybe we could get with Mr. Herner and possibly come up with some kind of a, a system. But there's just been too many things that have gotten damaged over there and are missing that, we have no idea how to track it down. And, I know years and years ago, when it used to be rented out, you just didn't get your deposit back right away. Sometimes it took up to a week. So I think we need to look into that.
Yeah, and I don't see the need for amending the ordinance over this. I mean, we could put it on and just talk about it, spending whatever it costs to amend the ordinance is more than we probably raise on the fees for a whole year, so.
Okay, we'll proceed accordingly.
Okay.
The next item is the Spring Lake First Aid and Emergency Squad LoSAP request. It's my understanding that either some or all members of the council have reviewed this in the past, but this was presented to me as a pending item, that no final determination had been made. I know, again, there was a brief discussion of this item during the budget session on Thursday evening, and if there is no objection, we'll proceed accordingly, and with the adoption of the budget, the funds will be available to make this adjustment in the LoSAP payment.
We would have to make an amendment to the budget to include that. I know that Spring Lake has already made that amendment to their, or is making that amendment to their budget to also include that. I would recommend that we do the same. And in fairness and full disclosure, as I've been asked to recuse myself tonight, having recently been a client of the Spring Lake First Aid Squad, as of last Friday, I just want to commend them for doing such a great job. And also Officers Matunis, Kwiatkowski, and Officer Kenny, who provided me some very needed oxygen at the time. I thank them very much, and I thank the Spring Lake First Aid School. Thank you so much.
I don't think anybody objected during the budget session, right? I mean, to this,
No.
so we might as well go forward with that.
Right. No, I don't remember anybody.
No, I don't think anyone voiced any kind of disapproval, so
No.
it's over.
As soon as we can approve it.
I did note in the literature that the administrator had provided as part of the backup, the notice from the local finance board, there was a reference to automatic CPI increases and indicating that the application of the automatic annual consumer price index is optional and must be included in the language of the enabling resolution or ordinance. So perhaps we can just check out whatever enabling ordinance or resolution put the LoSAP program into place and just make certain that it contemplated a proposed consumer price index increase.
Can we just get it from Spring Lake? Did they just pass one?
Well, we would have had to have done one back when we initiated the program, so I'm just suggesting that we go back in history and take a look at the enabling ordinance or resolution to make certain that we can, in fact, proceed with an automatic CPI increase.
Is that something where we can make an amendment to the budget tonight and pass it
I
concerning that?
Well, I prefer to check whatever we have on file from the past, and
Okay.
then we can take appropriate action accordingly, once we find out what the original enabling ordinance or resolution says.
Okay. I would think the same.
Obviously, it's clear that everybody's in favor of this, but we just want to make sure that we're doing it properly.
Okay.
The next item is a correspondence that was received regarding Fairway Mews and a sewer repair. I'm told that there's a significant history on this and other issues related to the maintenance of the sewer at Fairway Mews. And I thought it was best to present it to the council so that everyone understands where we are, whatever the outstanding issues may have been, or the previous issues may have been. As I think it's somewhat indicated here, the Public Works Superintendent, Mr. Herner, was aware of this and had determined that he did not have the equipment needed and was concerned about what damage might be incurred from the use of equipment to make this repair.
That seems about right, yeah. I think that was the backhoe that he wanted, but there has been other issues with water pipes and things of that nature in Fairway Mews that probably eventually should be addressed, but I don't know what is your...
Doesn't somebody need to look into exactly what the background was? I mean, they're relying on a letter from Mr. Blasi that's how many years old to say that we've agreed to do this. Art, who knows more about these topics than anybody on the council, says no. maybe we should take a look and see what records we have to see if we have, actually are obligated to do this or not. I mean, if we're not, we're not.
The last time that I checked into this was about 2 years ago, and there is supposedly a designation of where our responsibility picks up and their responsibility leaves off. But I do think that it has come to a point where we really need to get some kind of a defined.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we don't know where it is, for sure, we should figure it out and then either, say yes or no.
Table it for tonight.
Yeah, well, it's just a discussion tonight anyway, but yeah, we need that information to make a decision, because if we made a promise based on equipment we had at the time that we do the work and we no longer have the equipment, it doesn't seem to mean that we have that obligation.
No, we also have to make certain that the promise is still legal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's been relatively recent case law regarding townhomes, condominium association.
Well, that's why we have Fred to tell us.
So I saw the documentation that was a part of the backup for the package, and I don't know what else exists, and I agree that I think that we ought to take a closer look at this and see where the responsibility lies. And if it's the borough's responsibility, then certainly, but let's just make certain that it is in fact our responsibility.
The next item is a request for a water bill adjustment regarding the Greco estate. And again, there's some backup material that's been provided. I am also told that the requests like this in the past have been adjusted, basically, I guess, splitting the bill with the agreement of the property owners. And again, if that is the consensus of the determination of the governing body, we'll prepare the necessary resolution to formally authorize that at our next meeting.
I think we should keep up with past practice. Yeah.
I agree.
I agree too.
And obviously, this is a situation where a house was vacant or whatever, and he didn't ignore it. He actually asked to have the service turned off to avoid future problem. So it's not like he wasn't, it wasn't as if he were ignoring the issue.
All right, we will proceed accordingly. And the next is a request for certificate of occupancy fee refund. Again, somewhat self-explanatory. And if there's no objection, we would, I guess they've asked for either to be refunded or applied to a new certificate of occupancy.
Did the town do whatever work we do with regard to a certificate of
I'm
occupancy?
told that we did not. They had canceled it before the actual inspection was performed.
But now they're reapplying again.
Right. So
So
they're looking to
what-
just have it credited? That's the way I read it.
Yeah, that's the way I read it too. So why?
If we didn't already do the work, then I don't have a problem with it. If we did the work, it's a different story.
The next is a request regarding the Lair Road field, and as well as the community center use. And this is, I guess, a relatively new organization that has sprung up as a successor to the previous Pop Warner program.
From my experience, Bill Thurman's somebody we can trust, so I don't have a problem with the request myself.
Yeah, I'm supportive of it as well.
I agree.
I have no problem either.
And the other item, next item I listed was coin toss ordinance, and although there's no backup material, I'm told that within the last few months, the fire company had approached the governing body, and the governing body had authorized a coin toss by resolution. It has come back that in order to put that into place, it should be an ordinance, and assuming there's no objection, I would ask that an ordinance be drafted for the council's consideration at the next meeting.
Why does it have to be an ordinance?
Apparently, the DOT regulations require that, because it's on a state highway. The resolution was not sufficient.
They're going to do it on the highway.
Is that, do you know if that's true or not, Fred?
I hadn't had a chance to look into it, but if an ordinance is required, we'll certainly verify that. And we'll bring it forward for your consideration. If in fact we can do it by resolution, then we'll bring it back in the form of a resolution.
Apparently, it was done by resolution sometime last year, the exact date of which I'm not sure. But again, the request was that the resolution was not sufficient, and they were looking for an ordinance.
Yeah, because the chief came in and requested. I remember that.
It's required because it's at Spring Lake Manor?
No, because it's on the
It's not
highway.
the way
State
it's
That's
highway.
for doing it on the highway?
Yeah.
They do, they always do.
That's what they always do.
For the traffic light.
Is there any kind of liability issue for the town here?
Oh, when they have the cans.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
They stand out there in the middle of the road with a bucket, and then people can roll their window down and put coins.
I would agree that it
Yeah.
needs to be DOT.
You'll confirm that, Fred?
Well, certainly we'll confirm the procedure that's necessary, and then, we'll leave it up to the council as to, as a matter of policy, if it's something that you want to approve. It's my understanding that you've done that before in the past, and I know I've seen it in other municipalities, but, and we can also reach out to our insurance carrier and see what they would recommend with regard to liability
Yeah, I
associated
think
with
that would be
this.
smart.
Okay. And the final item that was in addition to the agenda was discussion regarding the Amascato property rezoning request. And I distributed an email that was actually emailed to the borough attorney this afternoon regarding that. I guess, Fred, you may have some additional material or information.
Yes, I do. As you will see, the owners of the, what I'll call the Amascato tract, it's block 46.01, lots 1, 65, 66, and 67. It's a combined area of approximately 2 acres that's diagonally across from Hoffman's, that fronts on Route 71. The owners of that parcel currently have an application pending before the planning board for preliminary subdivision approval and preliminary and final site plan approvals. The plan involves a mix of commercial and residential uses at the site. Currently, the property is split in 2 different zoning districts. The front area along Route 71 is in the B2 zoning district, and the rear area that is adjacent to the Wickham Manor development is in the R5 zoning district. The attorney who represents the applicants has contacted me on behalf of the owners to see if the borough would be willing to permit our planner from Joe May's office to engage in a dialogue with their planner to ascertain whether a better plan could be derived for development of the site than that which is presently permitted under the current zoning, and to have the planners make recommendations back to their respective clients. If the borough is amenable to this, then the property owners have indicated that they will immediately withdraw without prejudice the application that they currently have before the planning board, so that the parties can focus on taking a look at whether a rezoning of the parcel is in the best interest of the municipality without having this planning board application hanging and going on at the same time. And also, the owners will allow the borough to utilize funding from the escrow funds that are currently on deposit